You're doing tricep pushdowns, close grip bench press, and skull crushers like crazy, but you still can't feel your shirt sleeves. And when you flex your arms, your triceps are missing that classic low hang and instead look just plain flat. And there's a reason for that, and that's usually a misunderstanding of the anatomy of the triceps and also not knowing the best exercises that hit the exact head of the triceps that actually fill in the gap that you're missing right now. So it's my job to make sure that you not only know how to do the right exercises, but you know how to do them the right way. And when we're talking about filling in those shirt sleeves, you gotta target the long head, because this is the head of the triceps that provides the most width, and it's the one responsible for that big gap or flatness that you're seeing right now. So how do you do it? Two different things you need to do. Number one, you need to find exercises that put it in its most shortened position where your arm is gonna finish back behind your body. And then you also have to find exercises that put your shoulder in flexion and your elbow up overhead to put stretch on that long head of the triceps. And that's where we think we're doing it when we do the skull crusher, but we're not. Because if you target the skull, you're finishing and starting from this position here, which is not a position overhead, but rather in front of your body like in a traditional tricep pushdown. What I want to do and what you need to do is get those arms back behind your head. So now with your shoulders in flexion, with the bending of the elbows, I get a lot more tension directed right at that area that we're trying to fill in, that gap. And again, when I straighten out my elbows, I never allow the arm to drift or travel any further towards the torso. Once you set this angle back behind you, now it's just about opening and closing the elbow joint, keeping that arm pointed backwards the entire time, and that's the way you're gonna turn that exercise into a more effective one for building your triceps. Sticking with the exercises that do a good job of putting your arm overhead, we have another one that a lot of people do, but unfortunately they do it incorrectly. It's the tricep pushaway. And you'll see this all the time. They'll get in this position here and they'll extend the rope out in front of them. But what's happening is you're extending it far too low, right? Your arm position here is incorrect. You can't have a parallel arm position to the floor, because the more parallel you keep your arm here, the more parallel it will become to the rope in the finished position. And that's not a good recipe if you want more tension in the triceps. You want more perpendicularity. So the way to do that is to get your arms to a higher position on the finish. The other thing is people don't use enough weight on this exercise, and there's a simple cheat that you can actually add that allows you to use more weight and also still get into that proper finish position. And we call this a step through push away. Now I want you to get away from the stack. In other words, disengage the stack by stepping away. From here with that back leg, I'm gonna use that to my advantage. I'm gonna step into it and then step through and push, coming actually towards you, right? I'm stepping towards you and driving the weight out at the same time. Again, keeping that arm position high and not low. With us in this high position, we're gonna get much more tension on the triceps. What's nice is on the rebound here, I get a good stretch with this overhead arm positioning on the triceps. You can actually elaborate that by letting your elbows drift high and then drive forward and step through and push. Back and up, just like that. Now I'm finishing nice and high again, but you can see I can use a little bit of body English and momentum to almost cheat this the same way I would with a cheat curl, right? You're using some momentum and now I gotta control the eccentric on that good stretch on the way back. But again, we're finishing with a more perpendicular positioning of the rope to my forearm. A much better exercise, and again, one I can load up heavier to get more benefit from it. Next is an exercise that I know you've seen it, you've likely done it, and you probably have done it wrong. And we're talking about the popular dumbbell overhead extension or power bomb. And you'll see this exercise where you extend the dumbbell up overhead like this and lower it down to get a good stretch on the triceps. Once again, getting into that overhead stretch position. The problem is the position of your elbows here. A lot of us, maybe either due to immobility of our shoulders or just simply shoulder pain, will find that our elbows will drift out to the sides. What happens is when they drift, you take a lot of the tension away from the triceps because you're limiting the range of motion. When your elbows are out wide, this is about the range of motion you get at your elbows. When they come out in front of you, you get much more flexion and extension range of motion, which is going to put more tension overall into the triceps and make it a better builder. However, how do you do it right? Not this way. Not just sitting on the end of a bench. Instead, you do what I did in the beginning, and that's you prop up the incline bench. Because this actually fixes whatever biomechanical limitations you're inadvertently avoiding at this moment. Because when I do it this way, I still get the same ability to drop the dumbbell back behind my head, get an intense stretch on the triceps, and get that good long range of motion. But look what's happening at the shoulder joint. I don't have to have as much flexion mobility because my arms are actually a little bit more out in front of my body relative to this position here. They're basically like this as opposed to having to be back here like that. And that little bit of flexion difference is the difference between being able to do this properly with the elbows forward or not with the elbows drifting. So doing it this way, you drop that dumbbell down, good stretch back here, extend up, and again, just like the first exercise, a little bit back behind you. Keep those elbows locked in that position close to the side of your head, and I promise you this exercise becomes one that delivers the gains without the pain. The fourth exercise actually introduces a mistake that's more prevalent now than maybe ever before, and it's forgetting to then do the other exercises, the one that actually place the triceps in that more fully shortened position, because there's still a lot of benefits to be had there. And for this, I actually use an exercise I call the Wolverine Pulldown. So we can't forget the fact that given the fact that the tricep extends the arm back behind the body, it actually does have functions as a pull muscle, but it also, of course, extends the elbow, so it's sort of a pull-push. This exercise will do both of those. What you do is you take a hand-over-hand grip here on the cable machine, and then you pull until your elbows are close here to your body, right? They're tight to your body. After you pull, you extend the backs of your hands as far back behind you as possible. And again, we know if we can get the arm back behind us, shoulder into extension, we can really hit that long head. And again, with good full triceps extension and elbow extension. We come up, little bit of recoil, and then pull and push. Pull, push. One of the best contractions you'll get. And again, not just hitting the triceps. If you look at me do this exercise with the shirt off, you can see it's hitting all the muscles on the back side. Literally the glutes are even working to try to stabilize the lower body, but this exercise hits those triceps in that fully shortened position, and because of that, it becomes an exercise you don't want to skip because others are telling you the only thing that matters is the stretch position. They both matter if you want to fully develop the tricep. Which brings me to one of the most demonized and diminished exercises that we have in the gym, and it's the good old tricep kickback. But for good reason, because a lot of people will do the exercise like this, and what starts to happen after a few reps is that low back starts to curl under, right? They lose the ability to hold themselves posturally, and as they start to fatigue, that elbow starts to drop lower and lower. So what happens at the end is you're simply extending your elbow and not even against gravity, so the exercise is not very good. However, there's a fix for it. We go right back to the incline bench. With that same incline set up, you position yourself face down. And this does a few things that magically make this exercise much more effective for you. Number one, it gives me a counter force, right? I could push down into the bench to drive the dumbbells up more effectively, the same way that if I was doing a bench press, I'm pushing down into the bench to be able to drive the dumbbells away from me. That's the first thing. The second thing, pretty obviously, is it fixes the posture. You're never gonna have to worry again about the low back fatiguing and tearing apart the mechanics of the exercise. You're gonna be perfectly situated here, face down. The third thing is it allows me to perform a drag on the exercise that ensures that I'm getting my elbow far back into extension so I can maximize the contraction on that long head. So what does it look like? I want you to take your dumbbells and let them hang straight down underneath you, and then drag your elbows close to your sides and as far back as you possibly can, just to your waistline. From here, now you extend back as far as you can with the dumbbells. You'll feel an intense contraction on the tricep long head. Come right back down and do it again. What this is doing is, again, ensuring that I'm getting the right starting position on every rep, no matter how fatigued I get. There's no such thing as sagging elbows if every single repetition requires that I drag them back as far as possible to set the stage for the rest of the repetition. When you do this, you'll find that even with light weights here, you get that all intense contraction you're probably missing right now, especially if you're avoiding those contraction-based exercises, and at the same time, most effectively hitting the tricep long head. Look, there's nothing more impressive than a low-hanging tricep to complement a baseball bicep, and now you know exactly the right exercises to do, and more importantly, how to do them. If you're looking for a full tricep workout, you can check out the perfect tricep workout here. If you want to know how to do incline curls the right way, you can find out how to build your biceps with this video here. Full program's available over at ATHLEAN-X.com. If you haven't done so, click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.